All right. Very warm good morning and good afternoon, depending upon the time zone you are in. First of all, I would like to take this opportunity to say thank you to great, unique minds that we have today uh, at Enalito's Thriving E-commerce Summit panel. Uh, I would like to make a formal introduction of both of our panelists this morning. First, we have Che Voigt, CEO of Altwork. Che is the founder and CEO of Altwork, and Altwork has developed integrated furniture for digital professionals who use the computer as their primary creative tool. This company is founded on the idea that modern computers no longer need to be treated like typewriters, and adding machines from 100 years ago, the computer screen keyboard should move to and with the user rather than people bending to the machine. So that's a very unique product Che has created. And Che has studied mechanical engineering from California Polytechnic State University, San Luis, and he has also studied from Stanford as well. Che, welcome to the panel this morning. Wonderful. Next, we have on the panel with us is Tina Hedges. Tina is the CEO and founder of Loli Beauty. She's based out in New York, and she's a brand alchemist with a decade and two experience in brand management roles at L'Oreal, the Estee Lauder Company, Helston Borges, and LVMH. She has spent the last few years at startups and advising clients redefine their future in categories like baby bottles, biotech, and personal care. At the moment, she is kind of always whipping for a new recipe or for creating new experiences. She has expertise in strategy, new product innovation, brand positioning, and consumer product and global product management. And Loli Beauty is a brand which believes in zero waste, and they are creating this brand and they are on a mission to stir things up to make a conscious change. And they are trying to create sustainable products that are made up with living, organic, loving ingredients and nothing else. So it's a great, great purpose that Lolly is kind of doing with her brand. Lolly, welcome to the panel discussion. Wonderful.
Thanks.
So I must say, let's have a great conversation. So I would like to have this first question for both of you, which is purpose. What is the purpose of your brand, and how your brand is solving a problem? So maybe let me begin with Che first.
Sure. So, in our launch video, we worked on this product in secret for 5 years, and then we launched it very nearly 5 years ago. Um, Complete pre-order campaign. Don't do those; they're really very difficult. All that kind of stuff. But at the very core,
Mm-hmm.
the Altwork station started out with the other founder at Altwork, who was my dad's business partner.
Mm-hmm.
Known him throughout my life, and he was rear-ended on the freeway
Mm-hmm.
in the early 2000s. He couldn't sit in a regular chair for even
Mm-hmm.
10 minutes, and so he couldn't work. And he started experimenting with recline workstations, and in order to just continue to be able to work at a computer, which in today's world really means it's hard to be a person
Mm-hmm.
without using a computer in today's world.
Right.
So he came to me after he had developed some ideas, and I was busy with another company I was involved with at the time. But at the end of the day, we think that if you look at the world from 150 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
we have antibiotics, we have air travel that we just take for granted, telephones we take for granted. Email has completely eliminated what didn't even work 150 years ago very well, which was the mail service. International mail services was full of problems.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that we still do from 150 years ago is we sit in a 90-90, seating position, and that causes blood flow problems and spinal issues for people, and it just makes them less productive, right? The standing desk is absolutely something that's actually been around for a long time, but the ability to move from sitting to standing throughout the day, great innovation. We're trying to do that in such a way that it's seamless around the person, because we think it's just fundamentally wrong that a human being has to bend to the machine that they're using instead of having the machine move to them. The machine does not care. It simply does not. So instead of optimizing a bad situation, we're trying to rethink the entire situation. And at the end of the day, that's because we care about our customers, right? The cure for cancer is going to be made at a computer, right? We know that the vaccine that we're all hoping for is going to be made at a computer. Space travel, clean energy, all these things. And we would like to try to help that vision of the future forward a little bit more by allowing people to work in more comfort, which makes them more creative, and in less pain, which makes them just able to be a better human. So at the end of the day, we're trying to really reinforce the humanity should be first in that working environment.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, that's a very, very strong purpose, and it's actually solving that very important problem that has been ignored so far, actually, because there has been so much innovation that's happening in other stuff in terms of technology, but I think this was something which was kind of hasn't found a solution. But I think what Che has developed is kind of very, very amazing, and I think that that can really solve. It can be a game changer, I can say, definitely. Lolly, about you as well. You are also in a very, very unique niche business, and you're trying to solve a very important problem. What is the purpose of your brand?
Right. So the brand is called Loli Beauty, and my name is Tina, and I'm the founder. And I grew up in the beauty industry, working for the big companies like Estee Lauder, L'Oreal, um, driving innovation in every single category: hair, skincare, color, fragrance, body bath. And um, personally, and this sort of dovetails into the reason I came to the concept of Loli, was I grew up in Jamaica in the West Indies, and my parents are Cuban. And I grew up with early memories of my mom grabbing, like an amazing remedy. You get stung by a bee or a wasp, or you have like an infection or a burn, grab 3 leaves from 3 different trees in the garden, ground them together in your hand, and then rub them, and the inflammation will go away instantly. It's like crazy how that works. And like, these are my early memories. And then I graduate, go into the beauty industry, learn the science. And I had this aha moment a couple years ago where I had this, what I call the perfect collision of a crisis of consciousness meets a crisis of health. So I started having all these bizarre health issues where I'd get spontaneous allergies, hives, reactions, autoimmune issues, hormone issues, and no doctor could figure out what was going on. And I started thinking about all the chemicals I've been lathering on my body for 15, 20 years, testing all these products and being sort of the first on the line. And so I started naturally what I call Maria Kondoing my beauty cabinet and going back to my sort of natural instincts of mixing my own remedies. And then that collided with this aha moment where I was walking through a beauty retailer and I was holding a freshly pressed juice and I was sipping on it, and I was thinking about all the plastic packaging on that shelf, and I was thinking about all the water inside those plastic packages, because most beauty products are 80 to 95% water. And because you have water, you have chemicals to give it preservation, different colors, fragrance, scents, all of this stuff. None of that makes sense when you think the world is running out of water. 192 billion units of packaging end up in landfills from the beauty industry every year. And I just decided, oh my gosh, the beauty industry is a dirty business.
Mhm.
and I need to clean it up. And that was really the inspiration and the purpose behind Loli. And we were built on purpose.
Mhm.
Purpose isn't a green marketing campaign for us. We didn't like launch a beauty brand and then decide it's cool to be purpose driven and sort of back into it. Like, it is table stakes for us. We are zero waste from how we source to how we formulate to how we package to how the end consumer experiences our product. We've won numerous awards and
Mhm.
I'm really, really proud. Like, I've made the entire beauty industry in 2.5 years stand up and take notice. And like, now you look at Unilever, P&G, L'Oreal, they're all saying, oh, by 2050 or 2030, we're going to try to be like, plastic neutral, or like,
Yeah.
they're trying to figure out how they talk about sustainability, but it's all on future promises. And we've done everything already.
Wow, excellent. I must say this is so I think what you're doing is kind of setting the stone, and it's like laying the foundation for others to learn, because bringing sustainability into business is a very critical element that I think big businesses needs to do. And because I think it's a like a responsibility that we have towards our planet, and this can only happen when everyone join hands. And I think what you're doing is going to inspire, I think, other brands as well, because it's tough, it's challenging, it's not that easy, but I think it's needed. And I think what you're doing is commendable. Kudos. Thank you so much for sharing that, Tina. The next question that I have for you is around the consumer engagement. So you are in a very, very like a space which has competition with other brands, and like there's so many choices that a consumer have. So how do you connect with your consumers? What are your engagement strategies for connecting with your target audience? Tina?
So it's a really great question. Absolutely. The beauty industry has gotten, especially the last 3 years, everyone and their cousin are launching a beauty brand,
Hmm.
and some really well funded, through incubators and investors. So they have a lot more money to throw against paid.
Hmm.
Um, for us, we're still very early stages. We've only done two very small rounds, and
Hmm.
we're always dealing with small budgets.
Hmm.
So we found a combination of one, our purpose.
Hmm.
If we have a moment to educate
Hmm.
and people learn about us, there's an emotional connection that gets created because
Hmm.
people understand more product,
Hmm.
and that's very powerful. And then when you look at brands like Patagonia, it's kind of the same, sort of mission driven. And then the second is collaborations,
Yeah.
finding like-minded people. We don't pay,
Hmm.
we try not to ever pay. We actually never pay micro influencers or influencers, but we will do products and where we collaborate on a really unique product together, and we do a product been very successful.
Hmm.
Honestly, organic content where I did a video for BuzzFeed Lady,
Hmm.
and we got 850 views, and it
Hmm.
was me deconstructing our product, shopping, and make the products at home,
Great.
which is
Wow.
so really content collaboration and authentic and emotional connection.
Great. That's excellent strategy. Yeah, I think people love that, and authenticity. And I think because when you're solving a problem, it needs to be shared, and that can happen. But yes, we have to use the right channels. And if you're doing a great thing, you should be proudly saying that and just spread the word around it. Because what is happening in the world is a lot of noise is getting created, and in that noise, the most important things are getting missed out. So I think it's the responsibility of everyone to talk about good things, share those good things, and more people can then join that mission. Because I think people always require that inspiration. And I think what you're doing is really amazing. Che, the next question that I have for you is like, you have built this amazing product and you are in a very, very niche space solving this important problem. Uh, Definitely, uh, the target audience for you is probably every professional, everyone who is in a white collar job or who was working in an environment where they have to sit. But the product that you have has a like cost wise, it's kind of has as an upper price point. So what are your thoughts on that price point, and probably in order to acquire those new customers, does that become a barrier uh, for acquiring new customers, or what are your thoughts on it? I mean,
Yeah, for sure. If our product would cost $1, we would sell a lot more of them. There's no doubt about that.
mm-hmm,
Um, we we have a high price point because we have a very good, very high quality, and very sophisticated product
mm-hmm,
that costs money to build. That's for sure.
mm-hmm,
At the same time, we also try to remember that people will spend an enormous amount of money on a
mm-hmm,
car to
mm-hmm.
drive to work because they're more comfortable in it,
Yeah.
is at least the argument they say.
Mm-hmm.
And they spend hopefully maybe only 30 minutes to an hour a day in it.
Yeah.
Whereas even our most expensive model, which is a
Mm-hmm.
fully integrated system that replaces an entire office,
Mm-hmm.
over a 10-year life, you're looking at 30 cents an hour, right?
Wow.
So that's one way to look at it. But I will also tell you that we accelerated a model that
Mm-hmm.
we had in mind that is a non-stand up and less computer control in it than our mainline product. We
Mm-hmm.
accelerated that after the work from home wave hit with COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So we launched that a little earlier than we had wanted to in
Mm-hmm.
June
Mm-hmm.
and started shipping 2 months later. We would have rather had product ready to go, but there was
Mm-hmm.
such a demand for a different price point that we addressed that. So price is absolutely important, but I will also tell you
Mm-hmm.
that when we added that second product that doesn't have the stand-up mode, does not have all the adjustment features, the leg rest doesn't roll in completely, which is really important for some of our customers,
Mm-hmm.
it made people value our higher end product
Mm-hmm.
because they had a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And we found that really important.
Mm-hmm.
If you told everyone who said, some of our customers simply cannot work any other way than reclined, they
Mm-hmm.
have some sort of injury or they had some issue, right?
Yeah.
And you tell them, yeah, I got to sell you this system and it has stand up and it does all these things. And they
Mm-hmm.
look at you and say, it doesn't matter to me. And
Uh-huh.
it's just expensive, right? So for those people, it was wonderful to add a price point that was about half of our high end product, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our signatures. But other people then made the choice, and this is what we were a little surprised by,
Mm-hmm.
is we had a lot more customers who said, no, I really want the signature series. Stand up is really important to me.
Mm-hmm.
We almost all of our sales we have interaction with either via chat or email or even on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And we really try to get to know the customer. We try to understand what is it that they need, right? We are a niche product,
Mm-hmm.
but we provide a really important thing that's used every day
Uh-huh.
for these customers, and they, to a level, live in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to make sure it's exactly the right thing for them.
Right.
As a result, by having the two products, it really, really expanded our ability to craft the right product for the right customer. And they really appreciate it, and we really like making sure that it's correct. For a
Wow.
company our size, one of our biggest missions, if you will, as a brand, is to build that community.
Mm-hmm.
And we're starting to see that in place now.
Mm-hmm.
An article came out in Hacker News where a person had built their own lie down workstation, which I thought was really interesting. And I've had a great conversation, actually reached out and set up a time to talk to that person.
Mm-hmm.
As a result of that conversation, when you look through the comment section on the blog post that he put up, we
Uh-huh.
have multiple users who reached out and said, hey, by the way, I've had this does this great, this does, and just that ability to have customers come and start talking about their experiences really feels good.
Wonderful. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I think you kind of the analogy that you have given about how important it is and how it, like the spend that someone is doing when they're buying your signature series product, how it's adding value to the life. Wow, that's amazing. It's amazing. And I think the early adapters become the brand ambassadors. I think when they become comfortable, I mean, they kind of drive the show. They talk about it, they share it, and that's when the word gets out. And I think, especially in a world that we are living in, that where people have so many choices, it's very important to create that differentiation. And I think Che's product is really doing that, and it's solving that most important problem. Uh, Having said that, my next question for you guys is: last 6 to 8 months have been tough, and finally we can say that okay, we have kind of a little bit adapted to it. But yes, the next 1 year is again not, it's certainly not like, no one knows. I mean, it's not that complete predictability is there. It's going to be unpredictable. Work from home may continue for a while, and I think everyone is has to adapt. So how do you think the business outlook changing in the next 1 year? What are your thoughts on it based on the vertical that you are in? Let's say Tina is in the beauty industry. So what do you think, Tina, in the next 1 year, the outlook, the spending that is going to happen? I mean, have you analyzed any numbers, trends? What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, there's so many ways one could answer that question. So I'm not really sure from what perspective you're keen on. You mean from an industry-wide perspective, how brands and retailers are going to be affected? Or do you mean from like what perspective are you looking at?
From the spending perspective, because ultimately you have built a beauty product and the consumers who are going to buy it. So people are not traveling. So the only thing that people are doing
You
is
mean consumer spend? You mean consumer spend?
Yeah.
I think that I don't think that we've seen the impact yet fully. I think that there have been waves of bullishness, optimism, then waves of conservative fright, more recession-like spending habits. So essential categories in beauty like toothpaste, body wash, shampoo, conditioner, those have continued to do well, especially online, more commodity. But premium skincare, where we are, I think that there's definitely, some resistance. People are worried, like, where's the economy going? How many people are going to be? I think the election results has, as we saw on Wall Street, bullied, the stock market. But like, what is when higher taxes get implicated, capital gains go up, how's that going to impact the consumer spending? I mean, there's so many factors.
Yes.
I think that for us, the way we look at it is, and it's the only way, maybe I'm Pollyanna and extremely optimistic, which you kind of have to be if you're an entrepreneur, right? You kind of have to believe your own storytelling so much that, from my perspective, even if you're providing a luxury product and maybe a niche product, which Che, I think you and I are sort of in that category together, because like Loli is definitely more of a premium skincare or, masstige premium skincare. You have to make sure that you're delivering on something more than just a commodity, something more than just a utilitarian experience. And the ability to offer someone to change the world by their purchasing power is very strong. And I think that goes beyond any kind of recession or fear mongering and spending. I think that, or impact of the pandemic. So that's what I'm banking on. And we continue to drive that home. So like we've just added a couple months ago that for every product you purchase, we clean up 2 pounds of plastic in the universe.
Wow.
So it's like we keep upping that level of you purchase Loli, your impact on the planet and on people is so huge that why would you not do it?
Excellent. Wow. So that's like a great way to create an environment, or that's what people generally call it, positive reinforcement to bring a change. So that's how you kind of improvise or help the people to change their behaviors. So everything that they're doing, making them socially responsible. So they may not kind of respond, oh, you should act like this, but if you give that like a positive reinforcement, that behavioral shift will happen. So that's amazing. Great. Che, the product that you have built, yes.
Tina, actually, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I know that in business school that there's a saying, Tina, that lipstick is recession proof because it will always be sold. And I also have a friend that we've been actually helping them out in some sourcing because of the whole situation with personal protective equipment in the United States. And their company does hair care products. And they've told me that this whole environment has made a really interesting effect on the beauty product, because with masks associated, lipstick sales seem to have gone down, but hair care is where people are still spending money. I wondered if you could, I think you got some really interesting insights about the difference on this. I don't want to call it a recession, but it's just an impact and change in spending behavior. What are you surprised by that went up, and what are you surprised by that went down?
I'm not surprised by either. I mean, it's clear if you're covering up this much of your face, right? Possibly more. Obviously, lipstick is going to go down because on top of that, you're getting lipstick on your mask, right? It's just kind of like not a pleasant experience. So, yes, lipstick is historically recession proof because it was the lowest price point in the makeup category that offers the biggest impact on your overall appearance, right? You can apply eyeshadow, you can apply mascara. Mascara and lipstick are really similar, actually. They both really make a big impact, but like blush, foundation, all of those, like you need all of it together, but a lipstick by itself is just like gets you, right? But if you're covering that up, yeah, what's left? Your hair. So of course that makes sense. And especially if you're offering sort of masstige price points on hair, right? Products. I think skincare is a big question mark because people have more time to put in their routine right now.
Yeah.
So they're at home, they can do more self-care. They can do more masking moments. They can do more spa moments. They can do more bath rituals. They can do, they can add more steps to their routine. They're not getting up in the morning, running, washing their face and leaving the house. So also being on Zoom calls all the time, you're staring at your face every day. You're like, oh my God, what happened? I have a little, I have a little wrinkle there that I didn't have yesterday, and I can't go get Botox because who wants to sit with someone injecting you with their mouth right over your face, So, so I definitely think that, the beauty industry, there are parts that are going to do well and there are parts that are going to suffer, but at the end of the day, it's all going to come back. I think where I would be concerned is if I was in an industry that people have learned to live without. So entertainment, travel, like all of those things where people are beginning to be like, okay, like I've got, it's a habit. Like I used to go out to dinner in New York City at least 4 times a week,
Wow.
And eat lunch out because I was at work. So like, think about that, now I'm shopping and I'm considering like how healthy even if COVID goes away, I'm like, how healthy was eating out all the time? I don't know what was in that food. I'm not, so I
Yeah.
think those industries, really that sort of conscious like consumerism is what one of the biggest impacts are going to be in my mind.
Interesting. That's a great insight. Wonderful.
Yeah, I agree on those. As I said, I used to travel a lot. I haven't been on an airplane for the longest period of my adult life. So, and what's amazing, there's a really good saying in the investment banking community, there's no such thing as an important phone call. But that's just not true anymore, right?
Yeah.
You guys used to fly over to have a face-to-face meeting for anything that was really positive or really negative. And now it's just not a choice. So, you know, I've heard a lot of international travelers like myself that have said, I used to fly across the world for a one-day meeting if it was important enough. And now that just seems really time-consuming, wasteful, planet carbon impact, etc.
And
So I do think we get
hard on you and hard on your body and your business, right? Like, I mean, when you fly for 24 hours to a different time zone and spend 8 hours on a plane cramped up, don't get good sleep, and then come like the impact against the next week and a half of your life and business is also big.
Yeah, agreed. And so I do think so if you look at this from an Altwork point of view, I think what we're looking at is, one, there were a bunch of companies that were already what we call remote first prior to pandemic. There were a bunch of companies that were on the edge of it, where they're thinking, do I really need this office, right? They're just starting to think about that. Yeah. And now, I mean, I would have never wished this experiment on any company. It's like, okay, instantaneously, we're going to go remote with no infrastructure, no tools, and no training. But we figured it out, right? To a level. Yeah. So from Altwork's point of view, the home office has become our primary marketplace. So the question that we have is what happens in the next 12 to 36 months? So one, what we firmly believe is, without a doubt, many people are never returning to the office on a regular basis, right? They might go in for a day, they might go in for 2 days a week, but they're done. And they're going to move out of their high cost areas, and they're going to get more room in a cheaper area. Maybe it's a lifestyle choice, or maybe they just want the room, whatever it is. So that's for sure. And then we also know that many companies almost if the CEO of that company says we're going back to the office and that's the world we want, it's going to happen, and that's going to happen for sure. So that's going to be kind of a return to the old normal, if you will. The question's going to be is how many people are going to be in that building. If there were 1,000 people in that building before, we don't think that 1,000 people are going to come back. Maybe 500 do, and the rest are remote. It's hard to say. Yeah. And then we do believe there's a new player on the market, a new piece on the landscape, if you will, and that's the so-called satellite office. And these are offices, I know of companies that have drawn maps around their employee base and said, this is the number of employees that work in this 20-mile circle, or 20-mile radius circle. So they have a less than half an hour drive to some level of an office. And there's enough of them, usually the number's 20 to 50 people, to justify building a satellite office. Yeah. So we see a lot of that happening. I think the most famous example of that is going to be REI. If you read the Wall Street Journal over the summer, REI had just finished its flagship headquarters over the summer and decided to never move in. They actually ended up leasing it to someone else, selling it. And they said, based on our experience with COVID response, we're going to satellite offices from here on out. Very, very interesting response. So we think that those are likely a new player. And they also, for the US, is experiencing a reduction in retail that I believe is inevitable. and we have a lot of free retail type space with a lot of parking. So the supply side of that equation is there, and now we'll see about the demand side of that. I think it could be good. Could provide much shorter commutes for the person, still have the interaction with coworkers, still be able to not be what some people call air traffic control and full-time school teacher and trying to be a worker all at the same time on Zoom calls, right? We've all seen the pictures or talked to people with 4 people on Zoom, 2 of them are children trying to learn, right? So that could be an interesting thing. So we see those three eventualities. What we don't know is we know they're all non-zero. We just don't know how big any one of those categories is.
Interesting. Wow, that's a great picture that you kind of shared in terms of what's happening around the world and how it's changing and evolving, actually, because that's the only thing. Because till the vaccine is kind of produced and available, accessible to everyone, and unless and until the WHO can say that, okay, things can go back to normal, things are not going back to normal. And yes, the core concept of work can only happen when we go to office or only when we go and meet someone, that's actually being kind of has completely changed, and now people are kind of thinking in that direction. So great. Che and Tina, the buyers that you have, the buyer persona, the people that buy your products, uh, they are of different category and they are of different age groups. And so how do you define your buyer persona, and what marketing channels do you use to engage with them? Do you use Google ads, Facebook ads, Instagram ads, or SEO or content? What primarily you guys do to connect with that buyer persona? And how do you define your buyer persona? Maybe I can go to Tina.
Yeah, so for us, we definitely know some specific attributes, traditional demographics. She's 20, our sweet spot is like 27 to 35 plus. With another large swatch 35 to 45. We're definitely not in that 18 to 24 category. We're a little too expensive for that, and not like kind of millennial pink sort of branding. But really more importantly is her emotional makeup. And what we say is she's millennially minded. She's not necessarily millennial, but she definitely is woke. She cares about the planet. She cares about her body. She's into wellness. She's into clean living. Even if she's not actually clean living, she's reading about it and she's interested in it. So like one thing is what you aspire to, and the other thing is what you're doing. And, we're not necessarily appealing to someone who's like living off the grid, milking their own goats. Like that's not who we're talking. We're talking, she's urban, she's trendy, and she's trying to make smarter decisions. And, where we engage with her is definitely through social platforms, Instagram, through our collaborations, through content. We have really to be very candid. And if anyone who's listening to this has a solution for us, we have really struggled with paid social and getting consistent returns. We have moments where we do really well, and then we're just perplexed. We have moments where we don't do well at all. We do better organically than when we're doing paid. And it seems like all the traditional Facebook algorithms of lookalike audiences aren't working for us. So we've cycled through so many agencies. I think there's so many charlatans out there. That's a whole conversation we should have on digital agencies in this paid arena. But we haven't been able to crack that nut, which is for a direct to consumer brand is a little scary.
Yeah.
But we also think it's endemic and indicative of what's going on, because more and more brands are playing online now.
Yeah.
Brands with way bigger budgets that shifted, you know, that were more wholesale oriented, like the L'Oreals and the Estee Lauders of the world. And all of a sudden, come COVID, they were like, let's move all that print and TV advertising to Facebook. And now the marketplace is way more expensive, way more competitive. And so for a small indie brand, we're having a hard time breaking through that noise. So we're going back to, okay, we do well when we create real connection. How do we put more emphasis there? So we just launched a brand ambassador platform, etc. And actually, we can't announce it, but we're in conversation for a big wholesale launch in spring of this next year. So we're hoping that the world is not as pear-shaped by that point.
Wonderful. So you define the persona really, really well. And as you mentioned, I think connecting with the consumers is a tough task. And I think, I mean, the traditional marketing definitely has its own set of pros and cons. But because it's a funnel, ultimately from the awareness to the conversion funnel, it's a long cycle. And ultimately at every funnel, the brand recall needs to happen, and that's when the conversion happens. So, but yes, it's competitive, but I think, yes, it's a lot of experimentation that is needed. And ultimately, because it's a competitive space, everyone is trying to grab that piece of attention from that buyer persona. And that's where it's become tricky, and that's where it's consistent effort that can really solve that problem. But I think you put it nicely, and there's no right or wrong answer to how the marketing can be done. It has to be tried in so many different ways, and then see which one works, and a lot of A/B testing around funnels, around the campaign that goes out, or around the messaging that goes out. Can someday you get a breakthrough, and then you get to know, okay, this is how it needs to be done. So that's a great answer there. Thank you so much, Tina. How about you, Che? Like, you have because you are selling a very unique product, definitely it's meant for those people who understand it. But how do you acquire your new customers? How do you kind of promote your product?
Sure. And then Tina, we'll follow up and trade war stories about agencies and all the others.
Love to.
So first of all, let's talk about our persona, right? So we've really worked hard at that, and we did a really interesting early survey that provided some very important insights. One of the things that we were concerned about with this product is we had very good initial response, and the question is are we a gimmick, or are we a long-term sustainable product? Because if we're a gimmick, we got a big problem, right?
Yeah.
And so we asked a trick question in a customer survey, which was, primary reasons for buying. And one of those was, I like new technology, which we thought was a positive way of saying, hey, I like things that are fresh and new, but I'm going to move on. And we had a very low response rate to that one. We had basically about 50% of our responders, now I'm going to call it 40-40, because there was a couple of other little questions in there, were driven by current issues working. And then an equal amount were driven by, they want to be more productive in the day. And then we asked a follow-up question, which is how many people have physical issues that impact them at work. And that number was over 55%.
Wow.
So what we believe is our persona, every one of them is obviously a digital professional. But digital professional means so many things. Of course, everyone immediately flashes to the hoodied hacker at the computer.
Yeah.
But a lot of our customers are professional writers, as an example, because that's done at the screen. We have a lot of financial expert type people, hedge fund traders, things like that. Of course, we have the software people. We
Yeah.
also have imaging people. We have doctors. All of your radiology is done on a screen now. And
True.
there are people that sit there and look at that, and their ability to suss out the difference between a problem for the human body and something that's just abnormal but okay, that's life-saving.
Yes.
And the ability to keep your head engaged because you're still comfortable is a big deal. So
Yeah.
we believe all of our customers are aware of the physical implications of working at the computer over a long period of time. Some of our customers cannot work in any other way than a full motion system that we provide.
Yeah.
Other of our customers are recognizing that maybe they're younger in their career right now, but they don't want to be impacted later in life. We have a partnership with one of the top 10 disability insurers in the United States. And for those people outside of the United States that aren't aware of disability insurance, it's an insurance that pays you when you're unable to do your occupation because of injury. And for those people that cannot work at a computer, that's a very significant problem because it basically means they're really unable to do any other, their other social media, any of that other stuff for long enough during the day to be a member of society, contributing member of society. And that partnership, the standard insurance company actually gives Altwork stations to the employees of their clients to allow them to continue working, which is just a huge win because that employee doesn't want to not work. These are people that have good jobs and they want to continue to work, and their ability not to work is a terrible impact on them personally. Of course, it's a terrible impact for the company too, because they don't have the worker that they wanted. And then finally, the claim is bad for the insurance company, so they want to fix it. So it just wins for everybody all around.
Interesting. Wow, that's a great. Like you summarize it really well.
How people find out about us is effectively we do very well on video.
Okay.
Our video tends to get shared a lot. Our launch video, which we had very limited idea of what we were doing, has been viewed over 900,000 times now, which is just fantastic. And that's all organic. So that's almost a views, which puts us above almost any piece of furniture. If you want to categorize us as furniture, by the way, we don't consider ourselves furniture, but whatever. So that does well for us. Press does well for us when we're in the right news cycle, of course. And then we've done well with paid social ads and AdWords, etc., because very few people are looking for a category that they don't know exists. That's one of our most frustrating times. And Tina put a shout out for the problems that she's having. Our issues are, how do we get more people to know that this is an option? And awareness is our biggest challenge at this point.
Interesting. That's a very interesting thought that you shared there. So so every potential professional probably can be a buyer for you, but definitely I think how to connect with them and convey the value proposition. Absolutely, it's challenging. So so paid ads you do, and any how has the ROI have been for you? Like let's say when you do a Facebook ad or a Google ad, how much ROI do you see, or have you seen that those channels aren't working? More of your conversions happen when it's like an organic search coming from a discovery, a video that someone has seen and they discovered about your brand, and then the conversion has happened. Like have you checked anything like that?
Yeah,
Organic
so
versus paid.
I think Tina mentioned this before. You step and repeat and try and all this kind of stuff. As you mentioned, I'm a mechanical engineer by training, and when everybody says, "Hey, just so you know, you're going to spend a bunch of money on marketing. It's the future of your entire company, and we're never really going to know what's working." Not happy. So,
Great. Yeah.
what we think works is there's a balance between organic search. YouTube video has been really important to us, we think. But a lot of people simply search for reclining desk or those kinds of search terms. And those are very strong performers for us. Email marketing and engagement with our customers via email. We have a true and authentic story that our customers are interested in. It's one of our challenges is how do we get the rest of that story across? So a great example is last month we did a series of pieces about the actual footprint of an Altwork station. And people will tell us after they get their Altwork station is, wow, it's much smaller than I thought it was. And so we looked at that and said, well, while that is great, it's also a marketing challenge. We should be trying to explain to people that it is smaller. So we staged an office with the, kind of 3 sizes of a traditional office and compared the Altwork station to it. So we feel like that kind of education and awareness is something that we need to help people understand so that we can explain the value proposition that we have, not just what they think it is or what they expect it should be.
Wow, that's amazing. That's a great way to kind of connect with the audience. And because I think when you put consumers first, ultimately you start getting all the right answers. And I think in today's world where the attention spans are becoming lesser and lesser, with the amount of information that's coming in, the only way a brand can connect with the target audience is by having that authentic communication and kind of conveying that value proposition and kind of with the right amount, with the right product education, because that plays a key role. So I'm happy to know this, that's happening in your case. Great. While we are coming to an end of this panel discussion, I have one last piece of question for both of you, which is what is that one piece of advice that you would like to give to budding entrepreneurs or people who are already in the e-commerce or retail space, from your learnings, from your experiences, that they can kind of implement and that can help them in their business growth? Maybe let me go to Tina first. It's a tough question.
Repeat your question. The one piece of advice that will help them in their business growth, but about what subject?
It can be anything. It can be related to product. It can be related to marketing. It can be related to marketing strategy, something that has worked for you.
I would say, I think that if I sum up like a couple of my superpowers, is one, and I don't know if I would say they're really superpowers, but I kind of put them in a superpower bucket, is one, I always see opportunity in everything, and sometimes too much. Like I get pushback from my team because I'm always like, my first reaction is yes, and then I back out into a no. Whereas most people start from a place of no and then convince themselves into a place of yes. So I see opportunity in everything, and then I apply critical thinking. I had someone once say to me, first you get in the stadium, then you change your seat. And I always love that, because that's how I think. I'm like, let's just get in the stadium and then we'll find out if we even want to sit down or we want to go to the VIP. And I think that that's very much the mindset if you want to have your own business, or even if you're managing yourself as your own business in your career, that you have to have that sort of attitude, because the world is a very negative place right now. I could think of a million reasons not to do anything and just watch Netflix every day. Like, it's scary, right? Like, or Amazon Prime, but it's scary. So you kind of have to have this like almost foolish idealism and look at everything as an opportunity, and then sift through that and cull down, and then be like, oh, but if I only have the ability to do one of these things, I'll do that one.
Wow.
But if you start from that place of no, everything, nothing, I mean, nothing seems like a good idea. So that
Yeah.
would be my advice.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, Tina. Che, one piece of advice from you.
And I'll keep it short, but I'll start with reinforcing something that Tina said earlier on, which is if you're an entrepreneur, you have to be effectively irrationally optimistic to get out of bed in the morning, because
Yeah.
that's just the way it works.
Hmm.
Some days are not that way, 100%, but a
Yes.
bunch of days are. My joking response to this question when I get it is, my piece of advice is don't start a company, because part of that really is, if you have to ask if you should, then you shouldn't, because it's
Hmm.
a hard job. It's a tough
Hmm.
job. There's just no doubt.
Yeah.
A lot of people have gotten lucky,
Hmm.
and it seems easier. It's always easier when you read somebody's magazine article about, and you kind of fill in the pieces about how great it was. It's a
Hmm.
tough job. So let's
Yeah.
put that one aside. I do think, as far as, we'll keep this on the marketing side, but as far as the marketing side is, the biggest lesson I've had to learn in this is how quickly the landscape changes
Yeah.
inexplicably. A
Hmm.
year ago, Altwork was working on its enterprise model to sell large number of alt workstations to large companies that were doing expansions, and we were learning how to do that, and we were interviewing companies that are already in the business and making partnerships, etc.
Hmm.
And then literally 6 months later, they were interviewing us to figure out how in the heck we sold anything online without people coming in and trying it. So,
Wow.
I mean, that was actually, it was less than probably 120 days between those two conversations.
Hmm.
So that's been one of my challenges, is what worked years ago doesn't work anymore.
Hmm.
What worked 6 months ago may not work, but things are different. And fortunately for us, we've had a product that's well positioned for the new market, but we had to pivot hard in all of our thinking about how to do that. So we definitely had some good fortune, because our product worked in the
Hmm.
new environment,
Hmm.
but we easily screwed that up by not recognizing that the landscape was changing incredibly rapidly in front of us.
Wow, that's excellent advice there, Che. And as you said rightly, running a business is not like a sprint. You are running a marathon, and you need to know, you need to have that strong purpose, and then only you can keep on doing it every day. And I think what you mentioned, being agile, being flexible, and quick to adapt, that's the way to go while running the business. That's really kind of is the need of the hour, because I think uh, maybe what's happening right now, maybe things will change gradually. Maybe the way marketing has evolved, the way innovation has evolved, and the technology is evolving rapidly. So I think businesses have a huge they need to look at the bigger picture all the time, and they if they keep on looking into the future, they will get the answer. So thank you so much for that advice. And what Tina has touched upon is, while you're running the business, your attitude matters, and how to find your North Star. That's the most important thing that Tina has mentioned, is knowing what to do. And when you're running the business, how perseverance and passion can help you, because it's tough, it's competitive, and you need to stay true to the core of what you're doing. And if your purpose is strong, I think everything will align in your favor. So with this, I'm really happy to say thank you to both of you for joining in this panel discussion and for sharing these excellent thoughts. And I must say, you have been you have not shied away from sharing and kind of deep diving into particular thoughts, and kind of it truly resonated with my thoughts also. And looking forward to learn more from you. And I'll be sharing the recording of this panel discussion with you guys soon, so that you guys can share it on your social channels as well. And it it's going to inspire a lot of young leaders or professionals or an entrepreneur who is running a business in moving forward and take that next step. So thank you so much, Che, for taking out time today in joining this panel. Thank you so much, Tina, for joining the panel today. Thank you. Have a great week ahead. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.